Hi everyone, welcome back to video number 2. Alright, I didn't get to vision, I hope to in the previous video, so we'll just go through it really quick, and you just need to make sure that you take a look at that eyeball and you know all the parts of the eyeball. So vision, our most dominating sense, when we have parallel processing and sensory stimuli is coming at us in all senses, vision tends to dominate. So this four-step process of obtaining visual information into the senses would be considered visual capture. So let's start with step 1, phase 1, gathering light. So it's very important for the AP exam that you understand that what we see is only a small fraction of the light spectrum. There's all kinds of light waves out there, from long ones, these would be like the infrared waves or microwaves, radio waves, to the very, very short ones like ultraviolet waves, X-rays, even gamma waves, so think of like the Hulk. What we see is a very, very, very small part of that spectrum. Other species actually see more. So think back to maybe art class, maybe elementary school, Roy G. Biv, there's that color spectrum. Let's talk about wavelengths. No, I don't mean the surfing kind of wavelength. These are the wavelengths that are important for the AP exam. Sorry, my screen is, let me try to fix that. All right, there we go. So the height of a wave gives us its intensity. That's brightness. You need to know that term. Intensity means brightness. Now the waves that you see right here really, you could say they have the same height, but what you see in variation here is the length of the wavelength. Now we determine the length by the distance from one peak to the next. So you see here from one peak to the next. That is the distance of the wavelength, and that distance or length of a wave gives us its hue. There's another key term you need to know, and hue means color. The longer the wave, the more red it is. The shorter the wave, the more violet it is. So here's another nice visual for you for wavelengths. So we've got short wavelength here, which means high frequency. That's dealing with sounds or vision. And we've got a longer wavelength here, which means a lower frequency. So with colors, that's the more red colors. With sounds, that's the more low pitch sounds. And then you see the difference with amplitude here. Okay, so instead of wavelength, this is the height of the wave. And that will tell us the brighter the color. So the higher the wavelength, the brighter the color. And remember, brightness is the intensity, and with sound it's the louder the sound. And smaller amplitude would be the duller the color, but still we're dealing with the intensity, and the softer the sound. So here's another nice visual for you to really understand that spectrum of electromagnetic energy. So when we're talking about light waves and we're talking about waves, this is what we see right here. But there's many, many, many other kinds of waves that we can't see, yet they still exist. Other species, I'm thinking bees in particular, and other species are able to see these UV rays. Now phase 2 is actually getting the light in the eye. So there's that diagram that you should have reviewed. So we've got the white part of our eye, which is the cornea, and that basically protects and helps reflect the light. Then the light goes through a hole in our eye called the pupil. You're familiar with your pupil. There it is. The pupil is like the shutter on a camera. It opens or closes to let the light in. So the colored part of your eye here would be your iris. The iris is a muscle, and that the only job of the iris, but the very, very important job, is to open, to dilate the eyes, or to close or constrict the pupils. I'm going to pause there, and then I'll start another lecture later.